Bioleaching has been around for many years. I think Goldfields of South Africa was the first company to commercialize the technology back in 1986. There's over 20 bioleach plants that have operated or are operating in the world, but it really has sort of flown below the radar. And it's really an idea that's sort of coming into its own just in the last 3 or 4 years. Everybody's talking about bioleaching now because of the environmental aspects. We figured it out as an environmental technology probably about 11 years ago, and we had to wait for the market to sort of catch up to us. We've stubbed our toe, be the first to admit it, but I think now we've found an idea for the technology, and it's to not only address the environmental aspects of mining, but also the social aspect, as I'll hopefully be able to outlay for what we're doing in Ecuador. There's the usual disclaimer. So we just say our bugs eat rocks, because that's basically what they are doing. If you can imagine a brick wall, with the bricks being the concentrate and the mortar, as it were, is the sulfides that's holding everything together. The bacteria go after the mortar, and eventually everything comes crashing down. And this is in solution. This is done in large stainless tanks with impellers, and we basically give them fertilizer, and they gain their energy by literally oxidizing the sulfides. And what it does is it breaks everything down into individual elements that we can then recover at the back end, or we can neutralize. We like to say we're the only nuts that go chasing for arsenic, but everybody else is running the other way, so it leaves a very, very big market. The problem that the miners that produce arsenopyrite have is that there's really only one buyer, and that's in Asia. And because of the arsenic levels, the amount of money they get paid is severely penalized. Right now in Ecuador, they're getting 45 to 50 cents on the dollar for an ounce of gold in concentrate. The Chinese government imposed an import tax about 3 years ago. They used to get 65 to 70 cents on the dollar, and then the tax was passed on to the miners. So we arrived on the scene and said, we'll take you back to what you were used to getting at 65 to 70 cents, which of course leaves very, very high margins for us. One of the things that we won't do is we won't buy any concentrates that have been pre-treated with mercury or cyanide. That's a commitment that we make to the local community. And it's not our first rodeo. We've built 3 plants before, 2 in Australia and 1 in China. The one in China was 200 tons a day of concentrate. And as you'll learn in this story, our ultimate goal for this area in southwestern Ecuador is to get to 250 tons a day and over 100,000 ounces of gold production. So what we do is we give them the Garden of Eden. We give them what they would normally take them 20 years to do. We do it in 6 days. And it's a continuous process. We're slurrying in concentrate, and we have a solid liquid separation at the back end where we neutralize the arsenic, and we produce a gold, silver, doré bar. In this particular case, it's going to be about 35% gold and about 65% silver. An interesting team. The bottom right-hand corner is a good friend of mine and the former head prosecutor for the Ontario Securities Commission, who did the Bre-X trial. I'm sure many people remember Bre-X back in the 90s. So he keeps our nose clean. Paul Miller on the top line is the head of bioleaching. He's based in Perth, Australia. And then we have a very, very, everybody brings something to the table. Walter Samowski's a partner in Ocean Partners, which is a metal trading company. Don Whalen used to be the chairman of High River Gold, which was taken over. And Bernardo Brito is the young gentleman who approached me a few years ago with this idea of coming to Ecuador. Capital structure, $193 million. We actually just closed 60% of $1 million financing just before Christmas, and we hope to close off the balance of it in the next few weeks. Our average volume, it depends. Some days it's very low, and some days it's 500,000 shares. It's very bizarre. So an investment summary. So we're one of only 2 companies in the world that actually have commercial operations or have actually commercially developed the technology for bioleaching. And we focus on high arsenic situations because of the advantage that we can bring to the table for buying the concentrates at better prices than what they're getting today. We're looking at places like northern Mexico, anywhere there's arsenopyrite belts. Northern Peru is another area, and you get copper with that as well, and we can do that as well. and we are an environmentally focused company. We bought a 100-acre plot of land in Tengel, which is near the coast in southwestern Ecuador. It was covered in cocoa trees. And I could see it in the eyes of the people that were working on the farms. First of all, they surrounded us with motorcycles, which is a bit scary, but we had to explain to them that we were there to buy this property. And you could see them be deflated because they were out of work. We went back to them after we bought it. We said, look, we're only going to be using 20% of this area to begin with, so stay, keep growing your cocoa, and you can sell it. We're not in the cocoa business. And that was a huge win for the area. Recently, we got our consultation permit issued. We had 100% support from the local community. These people are going to be making a lot more money than they were picking cocoa leaves. The economics of the project, our margins are 25% because we know what we're paying. You add $212 a ton for processing, and we have a 12-year tax holiday from the government. We signed an international protection agreement with them, so any mediation that has to be done will be done outside the country, and they threw in the 12-year tax holiday for extra measure. We are committed to phase 2 of the project, which will see us process up to 250 tons a day, but the production would be over 100,000 ounces of gold at those after-tax margins. So the milestones to date, we completed the bioleach test work. We got 96.2% gold recovery and 100% arsenic stabilization. So this phase 2, as I said, will add another 200 tons a day of concentrate. The market in the area is 250 tons a day. And of course, the government's excited because we're not shipping 50% of the value overseas to somebody else. There's a summary of the project. We have all of our permits. I literally should be standing here with a shovel in my hand. The environmental impact study was done in 7 months, which in mining is incredible. We did a bankable feasibility study because we're not developing anything underground. And the numbers, as Brian suggested, at today's gold price, our estimated earnings are about 15 million US, and our market cap today is about 13 million Canadian. It's not easy selling a mining technology, believe me. Construction permits have been granted. As I said, the consultation, we've got a little bit of cleanup to do on the detailed engineering, but if I had the money tomorrow, we could start tomorrow. There's your economic sensitivity. Now, this is an interesting story. So the Sudbury Basin, as you know, has mined nickel, cobalt, copper for the last 100 years. There's a nasty sulfide called pyrrhotite that was associated with the pentlandite. It was a lower grade at 0.85 nickel, which is actually not bad. And it's a very volatile sulfide. It literally can burst into flames if it's just left out and exposed to oxygen. So they dumped it in lakes. And the estimates are that there's somewhere between 80 and 100 million tons of this material. And Vale has decided they have to do something with it. They own 75% of it. Glencore would own the balance. So in conjunction with Dr. Nadia Mikacek, who's arguably Canada's best-known academic in bioleaching, we are now running a pilot plant. The bioleaching is easy. The question is, can you take out the iron and get it into a form where you could sell it to Algoma, which is 180 kilometers to the west? There's probably about $9 billion worth of iron there. You can see the nickel values. I don't think we're going to see any of the nickel value. I'm sure that's what Vale's interested in. But there's also elemental sulfur. It's early stages, but the actual results will start to come in over the next 6 months. We're in a consortium with the University of Toronto and with NRCan, but we move a lot faster than they do. We did this 23 years ago in Australia at Radio Hill. And you can see in the recovery rates in the bottom left-hand corner. The problem was back then we created a whole bunch of products that we didn't know what to do with. Now we know what to do with them. So in summary, I won't run through it again because I'm running out of time. The fact is that this thing is, as I said, shovel ready, and we hope to be building shortly. We're out looking for $20 million in debt for the project. And the payback on it is relatively quickly, and then we go into phase 2, which would be probably another $60 million. Thank you. Oh, and visit me outside here. I'm just outside the door.